Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to CBSE with Sudhir, where we are going to do the second part of the fifth chapter of social science for class 8 students from this textbook, Exploring Society, India and Beyond. This is your class 8 textbook, which I hope all of you have. This is the first of the two chapters of civics. I hope you have already seen the first part where we in detail dealt with what is the importance of elections and what are the different aspects of elections. So universal franchise, we've already studied. And in this one, we are going to study in detail about the Indian electoral system. So this is a metaphorical representation. You can see the old parliament building in the background. You can see the India map. You can see different ballot boxes, which is to convey that everyone takes part in the entire electoral process in India, right? And that's conducted by the Election Commission of India. And this particular person who you see this illustration, he is representing the Indian Election Commission. Okay, so what is really the role of the Election Commission of India? Because as we know, the kind of size and diversity of this country, the number of people who are eligible to vote in the elections at different levels, at the Lok Sabha level, at the assembly level, at the municipality or the panchayat level is huge, given the kind of population we have in our country. And all this is the responsibility of the Election Commission of India. Now, India is a parliamentary democracy. We already know that, don't we? So where we elect representatives at the national level, that is the Lok Sabha, which is the lower house of parliament. The upper house of parliament is known as the Rajya Sabha. This is the Lok Sabha. So what does the Lok Sabha do? Lok Sabha has, total strength is 550, but right now the effective strength is 543. They focus on issues affecting the entire country. In addition, voters elect representatives from their constituencies to the legislative assemblies. What did I tell you? They are called the MLA, and also the union territories like Puducherry or Delhi, which are like state union territories because they have an elected assembly, right? So an MLA sitting, let's take for example, the Tamil Nadu assembly will focus on issues which concern the state, like for example, the rice production in the rice bowl of Tamil Nadu, the fishermen issues, the education issues. So all these issues will be considered by the Tamil Nadu assembly. Foreign affairs, defense affairs, telecommunications, railways, etc. will be dealt more at the Lok Sabha level. We will learn later on about the union list, state list, etc. That will be in class 10. Now, the state assembly elections and the Lok Sabha elections are only two of the many elections which are conducted by the Election Commission of India. The president's election is also conducted by the ECI. The vice president's election, which is due to take place in the month of September 2025, to choose whether C.P. Radhakrishnan or former Justice Sudarshan Reddy will become the next vice president, that will be decided, that will be conducted, that election will be conducted also by the ECI. But let's understand what really is the Election Commission all about. Now, the Election Commission obviously is a constitutional body. It consists of a CEC, that is the Chief Election Commissioner, and two election commissioners. Okay, there are two election commissioners and one Chief Election Commissioner. Their responsibility, and then you have below them, you have many deputy election commissioners, etc. So it was established in 1950 because the first election in India was conducted in 1951-52. And this conducts elections to the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, the state assemblies, the offices of the president and the vice president. The first elections, as I said, were conducted in 1951-52. This is the main office, which is called the Nirvachan Sadan. It is in New Delhi. It sets the election dates, when the election will be held. It takes on the job of registering a political party, whether a particular group of people can call themselves the election a political party. They allot them symbols. That's also decided by the Election Commission. They enforce what is called the Model Code of Conduct. Essentially, it means, we'll study about that a little later. It basically means that once the election dates have been announced, all the political parties have to follow a certain model. Model means perfect code of conduct. There are certain do's and don'ts. There are certain rules. For example, just like in your school, you cannot just wear anything and go, right? Your socks have to be of a certain color. Your shoes have to be polished. You need to have your nails cut. You cannot wear flashy nail polish on your nails. So just like you have the do's and don'ts at school, similarly, once the election dates are announced, every political party has to follow the model code of conduct. And the Election Commission is responsible for overseeing the entire electoral process from the time the dates are announced to the actual counting of the votes. So the entire process that takes place between this state and this state is decided by the Election Commission. So the Election Commission, what is the structure like? You have the Election Commission consisting of one CEC and two ECs. Then at the national level, you have the CEC and two election commissioners. At the state level, a chief electoral officer is appointed. Okay, so he is known as the CEO. Okay, the chief electoral officer who conducts. Now, under the state, there is something called a state election commission also, which is appointed by the state government. Their job is to conduct the panchayat elections. The elections which are at the lower level, panchayat, municipality elections, etc., are conducted by them. But the National Assembly and the Lok Sabha elections are conducted by the chief electoral officer in every state. At the district level, there is a district election officer who would be reporting to the CEO. The CEO reports to the CEC and the election commissioners. Under the district election officer, there is a returning officer who actually conducts the election on the ground. A single election, there is a returning officer. If I want to stand in the election, if I want to contest the election, I need to file my nomination forms with the returning officer, right? So the returning officer is conducting the elections, and the electoral registration officer, he or she manages the voter list. So this is the broad structure of the Election Commission of India, right? So the returning officer, it could be an IAS officer. Sometimes the district collector is actually the person who is conducting the entire election. So in different elections, this entire structure could vary a little bit. Now, how do you manage the entire electoral process? Now, managing elections obviously is an extremely huge task, very difficult, and they have to be investing in technology so that they are able to know, okay, there is a repeat of an election card. The technology allows you to remove any duplicate iCards, voter identity cards which have been issued. So technology is available in order to conduct a free and fair. And now with electronic voting machines, the speed with which elections are conducted and the counting is undertaken is much faster. It starts at 8 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, you know who has won the election. Earlier, when it used to be ballot paper, the entire counting process has to be physically done. It used to take sometimes 2 to 3 days to get to know the result of an election. This used to happen before EVMs were made compulsory in all the Lok Sabha and Assembly elections. So all elections take place at different levels. Like, for example, later this year, November, December, you will have the Bihar elections. Then you will have the Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam, and Bengal assembly elections will take place in the summer of 2026. That is April, May 2026 is when these 4 states will go to elections. I repeat, Kerala and Tamil Nadu in southern part of India, Bengal and Assam in the northeast and eastern part of India. Last year, we had the Lok Sabha elections in 2024. In the second half of 2024, we had assembly elections to Haryana and Maharashtra held separately, also Jharkhand, right? So what I'm saying is that different, which is why now this entire thought has come that we should have one nation, one poll, one nation, one election. It is referred to normally as one ONOE, one nation, one election. The argument is that it will reduce expenditure, but of course, there are many pros and cons arguments from either side. We are not getting into that because that's outside the purview of your syllabus. Okay, so the voters are about 980 million in our country for 543 Lok Sabha seats, not Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha seats. And Election Commission organizes over 1 million polling stations. So 1 million polling stations where 980 million voters go out and vote, and they elect representatives to 543 Lok Sabha seats. I hope this is absolutely clear. Any doubts, ask in the comment section. As I said in the first video, this is my ilaka. I'm the badsha of this. I know everything about elections, most of the things. So you would have teachers going, especially government school teachers. They are sent on duty as election in charge officers in different polling booths. So if any one of you is like, any one of them is like that, I can tell you lots of stories. They would be able to tell you some stories also. Out of these 543, there are 84 seats, Lok Sabha seats, which are reserved for the scheduled castes. 47 seats are reserved for the scheduled tribes. Now, what does it mean? It means that only candidates who are scheduled castes can contest as candidates in this particular constituency. Similarly, in these 47 seats, only tribal candidates can contest as candidates in this election. It does not mean that only scheduled castes can vote in the 84 constituencies or only 40 scheduled tribes can vote in the 47 constituencies. No, these constituencies are decided on the basis of population in that particular constituency, though they are also changed every few years. You may ask that, does it mean that scheduled castes or scheduled tribes can contest as candidates only in these constituencies? No. A scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe can always contest as a candidate in any of the remaining 412 general constituencies also. There is no problem. But here, a general category non-reserved or unreserved candidate cannot contest in these 84 plus 47 constituencies. I hope this is clear. Now, this is the entire voting process where you will have security being deployed, okay, which is usually of the CRPF, and many schools are used as polling stations, right? This is the entire process where technology is used. You can get the feeds from different polling stations, and this entire officers can, group of officers can monitor what is happening. Then these are what are called the voter list, where when you go there and you produce some identity proof, it could be your voter identity card, it could be your driving license, it could be your Aadhaar card, it could be a PAN card, anything which establishes your identity. You show it to these people who would be sitting on a desk inside the polling booth, and once they see your name, they will say, okay, this one is tick mark, he has come to vote. Then they ink your fingers to prove that you have this thing, and it is called indelible ink, which is manufactured in a company in Mysuru in the southern part of Karnataka. That ink will not go off for many days, though some people try to do some cheating and try to remove it in order to go and vote again. Those are the illegal people who break the law, okay, who are trying to tamper with the entire election process. For example, I'll show you my photograph. Now, this is the photograph from the 2024 Lok Sabha election, where my daughter Tejaswini was a first-time voter. The ink is the left hand, I mean the right hand side, because the photo image has been reversed, so that's why it's looking like the right finger. No, it is on the left index finger that they put. Mujhe to pura nail polish ki tarah dal diya, right? So they put this ink on the thing, so to prove that, okay, this particular voter has exercised his franchise in the election. They take your signature and then they give you, they allow you to go into the polling booth, and there you press in the thing inside, you press on the EVM to decide what will be thing. And you can also, on the side, you will see the VVPAT. I will tell you what is a VVPAT, on which you can check whether if you have selected a particular candidate, that you can check on the VVPAT whether the same candidate has come. Because if the EVM machine, the electronic voting machine, is malfunctioning, it is quite possible that you vote for voter candidate number A and the VVPAT machine shows B, which means that the EVM is malfunctioning, right? So that is a way to cross-check and verify. So this you see different people, elderly people coming out and voting in the election. Now, this is how the electronic voting machine looks. This is what an EVM looks like. And this is the VVPAT machine, which is I mean, they have put it here on the right hand side, but whenever I have voted, I've always found it kept on the left hand side, right? So they have been, the election commission has also given it to other countries. The EVMs, this EVMs machines are generally manufactured at the ECIL factories in different parts of the country. The big factory is in Hyderabad. So there are other countries also who have studied this technology, and they are using the EVM machines and thing. The VVPAT is the one which produces a physical paper record, allowing voters to verify that their electronic votes are cast correctly. The paper trail also provides a backup for verification and recounting purposes in case if somebody, if the margin of victory is just a few votes, 5 votes, 10 votes, 20 votes, then the polling agents of different candidates, they will say we want a recount. So recount is done using these VVPATs as well, in addition to what is shown on the EVM, right? Let's now come to the model code of conduct. Now, the code is used for ensuring free and fair elections, listing the do's and don'ts, what I just now told you. It has to be followed by leaders, it has to be followed by their political parties, and of course, the respective candidates. So these are, like, for example, if the election dates are announced, after the election dates are announced, the government cannot announce any big project, because that would mean that you are trying to influence the voter by saying that, oh, see, I have announced this project, so the voter will get influenced, unfairly influenced. So whatever announcements have to be made of any big projects, like, for example, some bridge being constructed or some airport being inaugurated, etc., all that has to happen before the model code of conduct starts from the time the election commission announces the dates of the election, right? So all candidates have to follow this model code of conduct. You cannot campaign beyond 10 p.m. Okay, you can not use loudspeakers beyond 10 p.m. If 10 p.m. the police will come and say stop your campaign speech, you have to stop it. If you exceed it, then it becomes a problem. There can be so that is something which will be of use. Okay, influencing voters through gifts in return for votes is also punishable, though this happens to a large extent, which is why during elections you find the flying squads of the election commission manage to uncover and unearth and catch a huge amount of cash being transported from place A to place B. This happens across the country. In many states, it is much more rampant, but this is a very ugly aspect of our elections. Okay. Then, here are a few types of complaints that the ECI handles. The first one, where a candidate distributes saris or shirts or cash or jewelry or appliances, etc. That all happens to women voters or any voters for that matter. This is not to be done. You can complain to the ECI. Or if somebody makes an abusive speech where you are either abusing the candidate of the opposite party or your rival, or you are abusing a community or saying some things about a community which is not the right thing to say, which is abuse. So that is again something which is not to be done. You can file a complaint with the Election Commission of India. Then, if the officials of the government, if any government officer, be it an IAS officer or a non-IAS officer, if I am working for the government, I cannot be campaigning for a particular party or candidate, or bundles of cash found in the car of a candidate during inspections. Again, an absolute no-no. So why do you think these are violations? 1 minute. So why do you think these might be violations of the code of conduct? Because these are all steps which are being taken, which are influencing the voters. You distribute saris, you are influencing the voter. If a government official who has a good reputation is campaigning for you, that is influencing the voter in your favor. If you are carrying cash for distribution to the voters, terrible. You are influencing the voter. If you are abusing somebody else, that is not to be done, because that is vitiating, spoiling the entire electoral process. So the Model Code of Conduct was adopted in Kerala in 1960. and every representatives of the major political parties liked it. Progressive state, that's where it was first done. And the ECI then circulated to parties during the 1962 elections. And from 1991, the ECI became proactive in ensuring the observance of the model code of conduct when T.N. Seshan was the chief election commissioner. T.N. Seshan is known as the most popular and someone who really brought a lot of dignity and power to the office of the chief election commissioner. Now, who exactly was T.N. Seshan? This gentleman. T.N. Seshan became the chief election commissioner in 1990. He used to be earlier cabinet secretary. And he said, I am going to implement the model code of conduct. What I have on paper. And he used to say, people call the chief election commissioner of the government of India. He said, no, I am not the chief election commissioner of the government of India. I am the chief election commissioner of India. I'm not a part of the government of India. My job is to conduct free and fair elections. You should see some of the interviews of Mr. Seshan. He's no more. Great man, very aggressive in many ways. And I'll tell you an interesting story. Just a minute. Let me just finish with this. Campaigning to follow very precise rules, voter IDs to eliminate proxy voting, and strict. He said, you are allowed to spend only this much money on your campaigning. If you exceed this, there will be a case filed against you. So he implemented whatever was given in the rule book. So that's why T.N. Seshan is often remembered as the officer who made Indian elections more fair, transparent, and fearless. Now, see, my name is Sudhir Sahasranaman, but also sometimes I write said T.S. Sudhir. Okay. The T in T.N. Seshan's name and the T in my name is both the same. It is our village name, which is this. This is in Palakkad district of Kerala. And I'll tell you something even more interesting. See this photograph. This is the photograph of our village called Tirunallai in Palakkad town. Okay, it's just about 7 kilometers from the town. This house, of course, we sold this in 2003, October 2003. This used to be our house. It's our ancestral house. Now it would be over 100 years old. Okay, my father after retirement, my parents went there after retirement, renovated it. Beautiful. They retained the old traditional exterior, but inside they made it absolutely modern. Okay, this was the car shed where our car used to be parked, right? So I spent a lot of time here. So this was our house. This house that you see used to be Mr. T.N. Seshan's house. They sold it much before us. So you see the common wall. We shared a common wall, right? This is a common wall between the two houses. And this used to be Mr. Seshan's house. This used to be our house. So this is a little bit of trivia that I'm telling you. Anyone who is from Palakkad, please raise your hand. Anyone who is from Kerala, say hi as well. Okay. Now, when is the next election in the region where you're located? For example, where I'm in Hyderabad. The next election is going to be the Municipal Corporation of Hyderabad election. It is due in December 2025. It may just get a little delayed, maybe by Jan or Feb 2026. It may be conducted. Okay. Now, when you understand elections in India, the first one, of course, is to the Lok Sabha and the different legislative assemblies. And as I said in the first video, it is often referred to as the festival of democracy because citizens exercise their right to choose their representatives, the MP or the MLA or the local corporator or the sarpanch in the panchayat or the municipality in a free and fair manner and in a responsible manner. I say, okay, there are 8 candidates here. Let me see who is the better of the lot. And therefore, I will go and vote. So India follows, as we have already seen in class 6 and 7, a parliamentary system of government where citizens participate in various levels, Lok Sabha at the national level, Legislative Assembly at the state level, and local bodies, I have mentioned, panchayat and municipality. 543 Lok Sabha seats, right? And the elected candidates to the Lok Sabha are called the members of parliament. I've already told you all this. MLAs are called members of Legislative Assembly. India uses the first past the post. You may get a question, what exactly does it mean? It essentially means that if there are 8 or 10 candidates, whoever gets the maximum number of votes will be declared the winner. It's quite possible that if there are 10 candidates, okay, if there are 10 candidates in all, the winner is getting, let's say, he's getting 30. The remaining, all of them are getting less than 30. Okay, the remaining 70 votes are divided between the among the 9 candidates, right? So all of them are below 30. So this will also, you may say that only 30% have voted for him, which means 70 people were opposed to this guy, despite which this person gets elected as your MP or MLA. That is one of the drawbacks, you may say, of the first past the post system, that even if there are 70% of the people who do not approve of this guy, yet this guy will represent you, even though he has got only 30% of the vote. That is the drawback of the first part for them, but that seems to be the most easy way to determine. So it means, as the book says, a candidate can win even without securing 50% of the total votes, like Gurmat won despite getting only 12 out of 33. 12 out of 33 is just about, is less than 40%, right? Is less than 40%, because 12 out of 36 would have been 33%, right? 33%. So just about, it's less than 50%, just about 40% odd, right? The Legislative Assembly is called the Vidhan Sabha in most states. In some cases called Niyama Sabha also. Okay. Generally, it's called the Vidhan Sabha. After the voting process is complete, the process of government formation begins. The political party or coalition winning a majority of the seats in the Lok Sabha forms the national government. For example, after the 2024 elections, the BJP did not get a full majority. It needed the support of other partners, but the NDA, which was there, which was formed before the election, it was able to get the majority mark in the 543 Lok Sabha is 272. That is, if in the Lok Sabha you cross the 272 mark, you can form the government. So the NDA was able to get more than 272. So therefore, as the coalition, the National Democratic Alliance was able to form the government. As a single party, the BJP had about 240. But along with its allies like the Telugu Desam, the Janata Dal United, the Shiv Sena, etc., it managed to cross the 272 mark, and therefore Mr. Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister for the third time. He is the leader of the majority party, who is elected as the leader of the entire parliamentary party, and therefore he goes on to become the Prime Minister. Similarly, at the state level, this happens to be the Chief Minister. Whoever is elected as the leader of the majority party becomes the Chief Minister of the state. What is the difference between an MP and an MLA? MPs represent us in national parliament, that is Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. MLAs represent us in the state assembly. In some states, you also have the legislative council, but we are not getting into that right now, right? Both are chosen through the electoral process, the EVM. If a party wins a majority of the seats in Lok Sabha, it forms a national government. The leader becomes the prime minister. In states, if a party or coalition wins a majority, the leader becomes the state's chief minister, right? Now, the State Election Commission is a part of the election apparatus. It plays an important role in national and state elections. It's also conducting elections to the local bodies. It works in consultation with the ECI in these matters and universal adult franchise and all other constitutional provisions. This is for all other elections, what I told you about the SEC. Now, you can answer these kind of questions if you're aware of who is your representative MP, MLA in your constituency, in your city. Now, let's come to the election to the Rajya Sabha. So far, we have spoken about the Lok Sabha. Let's now talk about the Rajya Sabha, how different it is. Now, the Rajya Sabha candidates, we do not vote for them. That is you, I mean, you, not you, your parents, nor I, we do not vote for it. The Rajya Sabha election is held in a slightly different way because the MLAs vote for them. The MLAs, they are the ones who are voting. So it is an indirect election. It is not a direct election where the people are voting. It is an indirect election where the people who we have elected, they become the voters in the election to the Rajya Sabha. So let's revisit the example of the Suryoda school, which we saw in video number 1. So let's imagine that after the class representatives have been elected, we saw that one of them had been elected as the class representative. Then they decide, the school decides that now we will set up a special council at the school level. Should we ask all the students of the school again to vote? But the school will be about 300, 400 students. No. They have already elected one class representative. No, fine. So let the class representatives be the voters to elect the special council. This becomes an indirect election. So this is the way members, MPs of the Rajya Sabha get elected. So out of the 245 members, actually total can be 250, but right now it is 245. Out of 245, 233 are elected by the MLAs from the state legislative assembly. The president of India nominates 12 members. So who are these 12 members? They are people who are not typical politicians, but they have expertise in a particular field. For example, earlier Sachin Tendulkar was a Rajya Sabha MP. Javed Akhtar, who writes screenplay and songs, he was a Rajya Sabha MP. Lata Mangeshkar, the famous singer, was a Rajya Sabha MP. Dr. Raja Ramanna, the eminent scientist, was a Rajya Sabha MP. P.T. Usha, athlete, she is now a Rajya Sabha MP. Vijender Prasad, the father of S.S. Rajamouli, the director, the person who wrote Bajrangi Bhaijaan and Bahubali, he is a Rajya Sabha MP. The great Ilayaraja is a Rajya Sabha MP. So what I'm trying to say is that these are people. So the idea is that when Ilayaraja stands in the Rajya Sabha and speaks on, let's say, arts or music, people will listen to him carefully because he's an expert in that field. Or if Tendulkar spoke on the sports policy or P.T. Usha speaks on the sports policy, he or she will be listened to with interest because they are experts in that field. So the president is empowered. Of course, the choice is made by the government of India, by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. But essentially, we say in formal this thing that the president is the one who is nominating them to the Rajya Sabha. So such members can be 12. So 233 plus 12, 245. Each state. Now, every state does not have the same, just like every state does not have the same number of Lok Sabha seats, right? So different states have different number of Lok Sabha seats. So you would have, for example, Telangana has 17, Andhra Pradesh has 25, Tamil Nadu has 39, Kerala has 20, Maharashtra has 48. I'm talking about Lok Sabha seats. Uttar Pradesh has 80, Bengal has 42, Bihar has 40, Jharkhand has 14. I can just keep on going on. Okay. Delhi has 7, Haryana has 10. So different states have different number of Lok Sabha seats based on the population. Rajya Sabha seats is also based on population, right? So then Uttar Pradesh, I think, has 31, if I'm not mistaken. But states like Puducherry, etc., would have just one Rajya Sabha MP. Arunachal Pradesh would have only one, right? So it depends again on the population. The other interesting aspect about the Rajya Sabha, we will be studying all this in much more detail in class 9 and 10. It is called the permanent house. It cannot be dissolved. Unlike the Lok Sabha, which is dissolved after 5 years, and after 5 years, elections are held to the Lok Sabha. 2014 elections were held, 2019, again in 2024, which means the next elections will be held in 2029. Yes, there have been cases where if the government falls in between, for example, elections were held before any of you were born in 1996, in 1998, in 1999. Why? Because these two governments fell. These two governments fell and elections had to be called to the Lok Sabha, which is why between 4 years, 96, 98, 99, 3 elections were held. But after 99, the government continued for 5 years. The next elections were held in 2004. Again, the government continued. So next elections were held in 2009, then 14, then 19, then 24. Before this, the elections were held in 1991. So this government also survived, but only these two governments did not survive, the 1996 one and the 1998 one. But unlike the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha is known as a permanent house. It is never dissolved. And a Lok Sabha MP's term is 5 years, whereas a Rajya Sabha MP is his or her term is for 6 years. And what happens is that 1/3 of the members retire every 2 years. So the elections keep on happening to the Rajya Sabha in an indirect manner. Okay. The strength remains the same. Don't get confused. 233 members remains the same. Nominated members are for 6 years. 233, if I am elected as a Rajya Sabha MP today, I will stay in office for 6 years. But somebody else may have been elected 4 years before. So he will continue for 2 more years. He will retire. So it keeps on moving like that. Understood? But the strength remains 233. That it's not like, 233 will come on, keep going up and down. That does not happen. Again, the other concept that you need to understand is of the single transferable vote system. Now, this is a special way of ensuring that smaller states also get fair representation in the Rajya Sabha. We will study that in higher classes. We are not getting into that. It's slightly complicated. The way the single transferable vote system happens is not so much for smaller states. It's actually to the election is held very differently from the first past the post system. It's not like, anyone gets the highest number of votes gets elected. It's not like that. It's slightly different in this case. Now, what is the Rajya Sabha? The Rajya Sabha, the voters are the MLAs. It's voting in indirect election, and they elect 233 Rajya Sabha MPs. The President of India, he nominates 12 members. Rajya Sabha members are elected through indirect election. This is not. Seat allocation is on the basis of state population. Most populous states like Uttar Pradesh have many more seats. Rajya Sabha is a permanent body. 1/3 retire every year. MLAs vote according to the single transferable vote system. Ranking, yes, this is the one. Ranking candidates by vote. So what happens is that if there are 3 candidates, I will say, if I am an MLA, I will say person X is my first choice, person Y is my second choice, and person Z is my third choice. Okay, so when they count, and they find that, one person is getting out because he has got very few votes, then your votes will get transferred to the other person. As I said, this is slightly more complicated. When it comes in your syllabus next year, I will explain to you in great detail. Let's now come to the election of the President of India. The President of India, again, is not elected directly. He's elected indirectly. Who is the Electoral College? The Electoral College consists of all the members of Parliament, the elected members of Parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, not the nominated members. The 12 nominated members don't vote. That's a funny part. It's not mentioned here. And members of the Legislative Assembly of all the states. So these are the voters. That is, you need to have all the MLAs. And why did you include the MLAs? So that it is more representative. Okay. And why is it in indirect election? We are not a presidential form of government like the USA. We are a parliamentary form. So when we already have the Prime Minister who is elected directly by the people, because Narendra Modi is elected by the people of Varanasi, right? So he's directly elected by the people. So why do we need another person to be directly elected? No. So the constitution makers decided that the president will be elected indirectly. The real power is in the hands of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet and the Council of Ministers. Again, this uses the single transferable vote. And the rules for voting, this is also conducted by the Election Commission of India. The following people are not involved. The nominated members, as I mentioned, they do not vote in this particular election. The nominated members in the state assemblies don't vote. The MLCs also don't vote. The members of the Legislative Council, they also don't vote. And the nominated members of the Union Territories of Delhi and Puducherry also don't vote. Bicameral. What is a bicameral? There are certain states which have both a legislative assembly and a legislative council. Legislative council is a bit like the Rajya Sabha. Like Parliament has Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. An assembly, at the state level, you have a legislative assembly and a legislative council, though it is not there in every state. For example, in United Andhra Pradesh, it was removed. But then again, it was brought back during the Congress rule. So now Telangana and Andhra Pradesh both have legislative council. So different states have legislative council. Uttar Pradesh has a legislative council. Karnataka has a legislative council. So different states, some states have decided not to have a legislative council. It's entirely up to the state. Why do you think the above people are not? Because you want people who have been elected directly. The above people are not part because these are nominated. Okay. These are nominated. The Legislative Council are also elected indirectly. That's why they are not a nominated members. So we want people who are elected, though Rajya Sabha MPs are also part of the Electoral College. So it is to ensure that only directly elected representatives. This is a little bit of a problem because Rajya Sabha MPs are not directly elected by the people. Okay, so this is not entirely correct because Rajya Sabha MPs are not elected directly by the people, but barring them, except them, the other nominated members or indirectly elected members are not allowed to vote in the election to the President of India. See, the Legislative Council is also because not every state has it, so they don't want to give undue advantage to states which have a Legislative Council. Okay. How is the election to the Vice President conducted? Now, here the Electoral College consists only of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members, but here the nominated members can vote. Okay, because the Vice President also becomes the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. He presides over the Rajya Sabha. So here, the elected and nominated members of both houses of parliament, same single transferable vote. He's the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. And whenever the Vice President is not there, now just recently in July, the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar resigned, which is why you are now having a fresh election to the Vice President's post. So what are the challenges? So while there are, it is something to be celebrated, there are issues like bribing of voters, candidates with criminal records, voters are not interested, especially in cities, they don't go out and vote. So these are some of the things, the kind of fake news which gets spread, manipulation of the voters, which is why a voter has to be extremely aware, vigilant, and see that, okay, is my vote there? Not go on the day of the voting and say, "Arey, mera vote to hai nahi." No, you should check beforehand whether my vote is there or not and go out and vote. Otherwise, someone else will vote fraudulently in a fake manner and go out and vote. So those are some of the things that India, in fact, right now is also discussing very passionately. You should be aware of that. If you read the newspapers, you will be aware of what is happening with the entire election process right now in India. I hope you enjoyed this particular video, understood what is happening. I'll see you in the next video. This is something which is a very fascinating process, and all of you as young citizens must be aware, vigilant, and responsible citizens and voters in this great country of ours called India or Bharat. Tata, bye-bye, namaskar.